The whole world is in the grip of a triple planetary crisis, and Kenya, our country, is not an exception. In fact, like other parts of our country in the world, we are at an epicenter, with this crisis worsened by limited resources and widespread poverty affecting millions of our citizens. The challenge of developing climate resilience is extremely urgent, and as you can see here for yourselves, the most adverse consequences of the intersection of pollution, loss of biodiversity, and climate change manifest most intensely within spaces that serve vulnerable communities. And if you look in this background, this is a vulnerable community space that has borne the brunt of the harshest and toughest effects of climate change. Today, the Nairobi River behind me here, which is clean and fresh at its source, is polluted, darkened, and foul-smelling, poisoned with industrial effluent, untreated sewage, and plastic waste. As I make that statement, you can see what I am saying in our background. All around it, the damaging effects of environmental degradation are evident. These issues undermine the livability of communities housing hundreds of thousands of people and pose serious threats to health and quality of life. You can all see around us here the communities living around here with a foul smell, with the raw sewage, and everything that this river carries, including plastic waste, is a big danger to the communities that live here. We are therefore here to witness the effects of climate change and pollution on the environment, as well as their impact on human well-being. At the same time, we are here to affirm the possibility of transforming this undesirable situation through effective partnership, inclusive and impactful remedial endeavor, and the National Climate Action Agenda. And I want to thank Chairman here for providing the leadership. By launching the National Climate Resilience Program, commonly known as Climate Works, we take our first immensely significant step to radically turn around the state of affairs by intentionally building climate resilience, restoring our natural ecosystems, and creating opportunities for our young people. Climate Works is a powerful, inclusive, and transformative intervention aimed at achieving ecological restoration while maintaining public infrastructure and housing through labor-intensive and sustainable public works. Given our recent experience of destructive floods, the urgency of focusing resolute interventions on riverine areas to mitigate flood risks cannot be overstated. It is also our opportunity to make good our commitment to improve safety in settlements within Nairobi River Basin. To accomplish these critical tasks, we are expanding the mandate of Nairobi Rivers Commission to include the development of sustainable urban spaces. In recognition of this urgent intensity and importance of the work ahead, Climate Works is ambitious by design. It aims to employ 200,000 young people, young men and women from every part of Kenya in the development of critical infrastructure and environmental projects within their communities. Additionally, this initiative offers an opportunity and a gateway for our youth to join a movement that harnesses their potential to enhance the livability of our cities and neighborhoods while directly addressing the challenges of climate change. Climate Works will focus on youth empowerment and their active involvement in improving infrastructure, including social housing, constructing bridges and access roads, and creating essential physical and social amenities. It will also engage them in environmental stewardship, urban cleanliness, green space development, tree planting, and transforming the areas surrounding our rivers. Our vision for Climate Works is to activate talent and capability in community service, entrepreneurship, employment, and further education. Climate Works will be a platform where diverse skills and competencies are applied to climate action and community transformation, while also fostering personal growth and alignment with emerging opportunities. Our aim is to eliminate illegal dumping of solid waste and discharge of effluent into urban areas, make communities resilient to the adverse effects of climate change, and build sustainable neighborhoods. Climate Works will achieve this while creating jobs, uplifting the young people of our nation, and empowering them to lead Kenya's transformation through climate resilience, ecological stewardship, and shaping new opportunities through knowledge, innovation, and entrepreneurship. To achieve this vital goal, the cooperation and commitment of all stakeholders is critical. I direct all responsible agencies to fully enforce waste management laws without exception to protect our rivers and surrounding environment in line with our constitutional duty to safeguard these resources for present and future generations. The initial phase of Climate Works will begin here in Nairobi County, along the Nairobi River. I am happy the governor is here. I am happy the NEMA authorities are here, and all the other agencies whose mandate covers the management of solid waste, the management of sewage, and the greening of our city. The first phase, as I have said, will involve many actors. We aim to complement and expand the commendable work already done by ComGreen Youth in partnership with NEMA. Congratulations, ComGreen Youth. Pongezi. Their success will serve as a model for community-led initiatives that intend to be replicated through Climate Works. The first phase of Climate Works in Nairobi County will officially begin on October 1, 2024, with 20,000 young people being onboarded. Building on this foundation, we will extend the program to the 4 major cities, Kisumu, Mombasa, Eldoret, and Nakuru, within 1 month. An additional 40,000 youth will be engaged, with 10,000 of them allocated to other areas of Nairobi starting in early November. In December, we will roll out Climate Works across all remaining counties, onboarding 140,000 youth to ensure full national participation and full national impact. I encourage young people to be part of making Kenya's cities, urban spaces, and neighborhoods livable, smart, green, and sustainable by applying for Climate Works through www.crsp.go.ke. We are a country headed digital, and therefore each and every young person will find their space in this ecosystem. Let me repeat, every young person across Kenya, as soon as I finish this statement, you can begin to apply. We will be taking 20,000 young people in Nairobi along this river. You can see the dump site is right there. Some of the young people will participate in making sure that this dump site is dealt with. It's been an eyesore, it's been a challenge, it's been a health hazard. It is time that we deal with it. And I'm very happy that we are doing this in collaboration with Nairobi City County, because that is their mandate. I recognize and thank our many partners whose contributions have made Climate Works a reality, including Public Space Network, Chemolex, and Muungano wa Wanavijiji. Your commendable efforts have brought a noble vision to life, made it possible to restore not only Nairobi River, but also the beauty of Kenya and the safety and dignity of our communities. Certainly, you are an indelible part of Kenya's climate action and socio-economic transformation. I invite our private sector to join other citizens in driving this program forward and our development partners to walk this historic journey with us. And I'm very happy the UN representative is right here with us to demonstrate the collaboration and partnership that is necessary for us to deal with this challenge. Let us all stand together and work with one accord, and through Climate Works, deliver urgently needed solutions and resources to support our fight against climate change. Wacha nimalize kwa kusema ya kwamba leo tumefika hapa kwa sababu mji wa Nairobi ni capital ya Kenya. Miezi chache iliyopita tulipoteza Wakenya 42, maisha ya Wakenya 42 kwa sababu ya mafuriko katika mto huu. Jamii 22,000 walitoka hapa kwa sababu ya hatari ya wao kubebwa na mafuriko. Leo tumefika hapa kusema ya kwamba yale yaliyotokea hapa, kwanza wale familia walitoka katika hii sehemu, mimi nataka niwaambie tayari tumetangaza kandarasi ya ujenzi wa social housing, kwa sababu niliwaeleza wale wote waliotolewa hapa ya kwamba serikali iko na mpango ya kuwatafutia makao. Wao ndio watakuwa wa kwanza, na tuko na majina yao. Wao ndio watakuwa wa kwanza kufaidika na program ya social housing ya serikali ambayo tayari tumetangaza. Ya pili, tumefika hapa kwa sababu tuko na vijana wengi ambao hawana ajira, hawana mapato. Shida ambayo tuko nayo hapa ya mambo ya climate change, shida ya mafuriko, shida ya sewage, shida ya solid waste, shida ya pollution ambayo imefanya mto huu kuwa ni mto mchafu, mto mwenye inanuka vibaya. Tunataka kuibadilisha hiyo shida, tunataka tuitengeneze opportunity ya hawa vijana. Na ndio sababu tumesema kuanzia leo vijana Nairobi na Kenya muanze kujisajili katika portal ya climate resilience ambayo tutatumia kupigana na mambo ya climate change. Hiyo portal www.crsp.go.ke. Kila kijana Kenya ujisajili hapo ndio upate nafasi ya kujumuishwa katika jeshi kubwa tunayotengeneza ambayo itashughulika na mazingira katika taifa letu. Nyinyi vijana tutawa recruit kama ile program ilikuwa pale mbeleni, lakini sasa hii program tumeitengeneza tofauti ili tuwe na outcome. Tunataka tukimalizana na hii kazi baada ya miaka 3-4 mto huu uwe na maji masafi na uwe na samaki katika mto huu. Mto huu uwe tumeipanua mahali hapa iwe ni green space. Watu wanaweza kutembea hapa, watoto wetu wa Kenya badala ya harufu mbaya ambayo iko hapa wanaweza kutembea mahali kuna usafi. Na vijana wetu wa Kenya pia wapate nafasi ya kujipatia mapato. Hapa Nairobi vile nimesema, kuanzia tarehe 1 mwezi ujao, kwa wiki kama 3 inayokuja, vijana 20,000 watakuwa katika hii mpango. Baadaye tutaongeza vijana 10,000 katika sehemu zingine ambazo haziko katika mito hapa Nairobi. Na vijana wengine zaidi ya 160,000 katika sehemu zingine zote za taifa letu la Kenya. Miji yale makubwa, mji wa Kisumu, mji wa Mombasa, mji wa Nakuru, mji wa Eldoret ndio itafuatia katika hii mpango. Alafu itafuata zile counties zote kufikia pale Disemba, ili tuhakikisha kwamba hawa vijana wanapata nafasi ya mapato na pia wachangie katika kukabiliana na matatizo ya mabadiliko ya mambo ya mazingira. Hii Nairobi River, inshallah, kwa mapenzi ya Mungu, tunataka hii Nairobi River ndani ya mwaka moja iwe imebadilika. Com Green mnasemaje? Inawezekana. Unasema inawezekana? Naona tayari mko na experience. Mumejaribu na mumefanya sehemu kiasi. Kwa hivyo tutapanga hii Nairobi River kilomita 45 ya Nairobi River. The whole section along Nairobi River is going to be divided, na tutahakikisha kwamba kuna vijana katika kila stage. Na wale vijana watajumuishwa katika hii mpango, sio vijana kutoka mahali ingine. Condition ya kwanza ni kwamba huyo kijana awe anaishi hapa. Ni jirani, mtu ya hapa, ndio watajumuishwa katika hii mpango. Alafu tutaongeza vijana wengine. Kwa hivyo mimi nimefurahi sana kufika hapa leo kuwaambia vijana wa Nairobi wako na nafasi ya kuchangia katika kuboresha mazingira yetu kwa minajili ya mji wetu wa Nairobi, wakazi wa Nairobi na watoto wetu wa hapa Nairobi waweze kuishi katika mazingira ya sawa sawa. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka nishukuru vitengo vyote vya serikali. Nataka nishukuru marafiki wetu, watu kutoka United Nations, development partners, members from different embassies and other international organizations that have agreed to partner with us. Mimi nataka niwaulize machief na wale wengine wote wafanye process transparent ya kujua vijana wanatoka wapi, ili watu wasitoe vijana kutoka sehemu zingine. Vijana wawe wanatoka hapa na wanajulikana wanatoka hapa. Kwa hivyo mimi nimefurahi sana. Tumekuja hapa katika shughuli ya muhimu. If there is one project that is as important as our lives, it is the management of climate change that poses existential threat to humanity. We must deal with it firmly, resolutely. Let me also say this as we launch this process. Those entities that are polluting our rivers, the industries that are polluting our rivers, the manufacturing entities that are polluting our rivers, the raw sewage that is coming from our public entities, the solid waste that is in this river coming from different places, on the basis of extended producer responsibility, each and every one of them will be held to account. All of us. If you are going to be polluting the river, you must prepare to make sure that you are held to account and you pay for it, so that we can keep the river clean and everybody becomes responsible for their behavior. If you are not in good behavior, know that you are going to pay for bad behavior. And we are going to make sure that this works for Kenya. So asanteni sana jamii ambao walitolewa hapa. Mimi nataka niwahakikishie mpango huu utawapatia makao mapya ambayo itakuwa ni makao yenu bila ya uwezekano tena wa kuhamishwa. Vijana ambao wametusaidia katika hii mpango kama Com Green na wengine wengi, sasa tutaweka katika mpango maalum ambayo sasa hamutafanya kazi ya volunteer, mutafanya kazi yenye iko na malipo, na mutatusaidia tena kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya wengine wote na vijana hasa vijana wa Nairobi na vijana wa cities zetu na vijana wa kutoka sehemu zingine zote wanajumuika katika hii mpango, kwa sababu ni mpango ambayo itabadilisha sura ya Nairobi River na sura ya mji wetu wa Nairobi na miji yetu zingine zote and all our neighborhoods across Kenya. Kwa hivyo mimi nimesema asante sana. Nafikiri sasa tutaenda kwa ile mkutano, tutaongea sisi wote kule. Asanteni. Thank you. God bless you.
Tonight, two major stories as we come on the air. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump set to face off in their high-stakes debate, and Tropical Storm Francine on a collision course with the U.S. First tonight, Francine expected to strengthen into a hurricane this evening as it closes in on the Gulf Coast, bringing life-threatening storm surge and up to a foot of rain. Al Roker is standing by. Also tonight, the highly anticipated clash between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Their first and potentially only debate before the election, with the race in a dead heat, both candidates expected to go on the attack. And what Mr. Trump told us his biggest challenge will be tonight, our full team coverage. The scary moment on the tarmac in Atlanta, two Delta planes colliding, the tail of one aircraft knocked off.
We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was?
What the airline says happened. The raging wildfires in the west forcing new evacuations. The deadly Israeli airstrike on a humanitarian zone in Gaza. And new video inside the tunnel where 6 hostages, including an American, were reportedly killed. And the historic launch, the all-civilian SpaceX crew set to travel farther away from Earth than any human in more than 50 years.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. There is breaking news tonight on several fronts, including the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, now just a few hours away, with the potential to nudge the needle in an incredibly tight race. But more urgently tonight, we are also tracking Tropical Storm Francine, feeding off of warm Gulf waters and expected to spin into a powerful hurricane as it takes aim at the Louisiana coast, with New Orleans currently in its potential path and now under a hurricane watch. Tonight, hurricane, flood, and storm surge alerts are posted along the coast, where all day people have been preparing their lines of defense. Francine packing winds up to 65 miles per hour and forecasted to produce flooding rainfalls. The storm will likely make landfall about this time tomorrow. We'll get to the debate, but first, Al Roker is here. And Al, what's the latest on Francine's track?
Well, right now, Lester, we're looking at this thing moving relatively slowly, currently northeast at 10 miles per hour. It's 360 miles southwest of Morgan City, Louisiana, with 65 mile per hour winds. Will probably make landfall sometime, as you mentioned, right around this time tomorrow evening. Hurricane warnings up for much of the Louisiana coast. New Orleans in a hurricane watch. We look for this system. Don't worry about the category. It's the impacts. We could see wind gusts of up to 95 miles per hour, widespread outages and damage to homes. Plus, we've got that storm surge ahead of those winds, 5 to 10 feet from central Louisiana all the way to the parts of the Louisiana-Mississippi coast. We're looking at a moderate risk of strong flooding because they've already had recent rainfall. So all this heavy rain could make more flooding even more likely when we're looking at up to 12 inches of rain. Lester?
All right, Al Roker, thanks very much. For more, let's go to Jesse Kirsch, who is in New Orleans. And Jesse, how are they bracing for Francine there?
Lester, we're talking about the possibility of 3 to 5 feet of storm surge, flooding, and even tornadoes here as we wait for Francine's landfall. With the storm's latest forecast, Francine's path would have New Orleans on the right. That is typically the side of a hurricane that sees the most devastation from rain and wind. In anticipation of landfall today, there were cars lined up around the block outside of this city's sandbagging site. And the city is urging residents to finish preparations this evening and to shelter indoors during the storm, which formed closer to Louisiana than others. That means less time to prepare. Lester?
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thank you. Just moments ago, the scene in Philadelphia as former President Trump's plane arrived for tonight's high-stakes debate against Vice President Harris. It's a critical showdown with polls showing the race is a dead heat. Peter Alexander has late details for us.
Tonight, our first look inside the debate hall just hours before the historic face-off between Vice President Harris and former President Trump here in Philadelphia. A crucial night for both candidates in front of what's likely their largest audience ahead of the election. For Harris, a chance to showcase what her campaign calls one of her greatest strengths, her experience as a prosecutor who can take on Trump.
I know Donald Trump's type. In fact, I've been dealing with people like him my entire career.
Sources tell NBC News she's been holding mock debate sessions looking for ways to get under Trump's skin to provoke an outburst.
There's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go, and we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth.
And a new poll shows the importance of this moment for Harris. While more than 70% of likely voters say they know enough about the VP, nearly 30% say they need to know more information about her.
I spoke to the vice president. She seems calm, cool, and collected.
For former President Trump, tonight's a key opportunity to press Harris, who's rarely appeared in unscripted settings since becoming the nominee. Sources tell NBC News after a series of loose prep sessions, he did more intense preparation over the last 3 days. Expect him to target a record on issues where polls show Americans trust him more, including the economy.
We delivered an economic miracle, which Kamala and Joe turned into an economic disaster.
And to challenge changes in her positions, including on immigration.
Flip-flopping. She's the greatest flip-flopper. I mean, now she's saying, oh, we want to build a strong border. Where has she been for 3.5 years?
And Peter, so much to watch for tonight, but we already know how some things will play out.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. We're here in the spin room. Donald Trump already won the coin toss. He has chosen to deliver the last closing argument tonight. As you know, the mics are going to be muted for a candidate when it's not their turn to speak. And we'll be watching if there was a handshake between Trump and Harris tonight, just to underscore the stakes here. 30% of registered voters in a new poll say that they will make a decision off of this event. Back to you.
All right, Peter, thank you. And Garrett Hake is also in Philadelphia. Garrett, you spoke with the former president today.
That's right, Lester. Former President Trump seemed eager to get onto the debate stage tonight. He told me the hardest part of preparing to debate Vice President Harris has been adjusting to her recent changes in policy positions. But he argues that those changes will make her not believable to voters. Now, the strategy for the Trump campaign tonight, sources tell me, is to highlight what they view as Harris's most liberal stances over the course of her career and argue that those are her true beliefs, regardless of wherever she says she stands now. Sources close to Trump tell me he's grown more focused as the debate's gotten closer, and polls have tightened in his favor. They believe the vice president's honeymoon is all but over, and they can end it tonight with a strong performance. Lester?
All right, Garrett Hake, thank you. One of the likely topics in tonight's debate, immigration. And there is a new flashpoint in Ohio town with a rising number of Haitian immigrants, and unfounded rumors there are now flaming tensions. Here's Gabe Gutierrez.
Tonight, Springfield, Ohio finds itself at the center of a raging immigration debate. With violence escalating in Haiti over the past few years, Ohio's governor says around 15,000 Haitian immigrants have settled in Springfield, filling jobs and boosting the economy, but also straining local resources, sparking outrage from some residents.
I'm angry that foreigners are using up the resources that were set up for the Americans that reside here.
Those tensions first flared in Springfield last year when a Haitian driver without a valid license crashed into a school bus, killing an 11-year-old boy. Then, this week, former President Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, amplified an unfounded claim on social media. Writing reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country. Springfield's mayor said late today the story about pets being killed originated in another town entirely, involving a woman who was arrested for animal cruelty.
We have not been able to verify any credible reports or specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Also today, Vance acknowledged it's possible, of course, that all of these rumors will turn out to be false, while the White House called it BS, disinformation, and dangerous.
You've got now elected officials in the Republican Party pushing, yet another conspiracy theory that's just seeking to divide people based on lies. And let's be honest, based on an element of racism.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine now says that the state is sending more resources to help Springfield officials deal with the migrant influx, while calling on the federal government to do more. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thank you. You can watch the debate and our complete coverage, including Peter, Garrett, Kristen Welker, and Hallie Jackson, starting at 8 p.m. tonight here on NBC. We want to turn now to that wildfire emergency in the West, where yet another big fire is threatening more homes and forcing some new evacuations in Southern California. Dana Griffin is there with late details for us. Dana, the terrain is making it really tough.
Lester, this is the front of the line fire. Fire officials tell me there are 40 to 50 homes down there. They are hoping to spare them from these raging flames. Just south of here, a new explosive fire in Southern California. The airport fire burning critically close to communication towers after threatening homes, sending residents fleeing. The California National Guard is here in San Bernardino County, where a state of emergency has been declared. A cool down could help the firefight because temperatures are expected to gradually drop, but the focus tonight is putting the brakes on these fast-moving flames before they make it to more populated areas. Lester?
Okay, Dana, thank you. Now to the Middle East. Israel today carrying out a deadly strike in a humanitarian zone in Gaza. And new images showing how and where those 6 hostages recently killed by Hamas were being held. Richard Engel is in Jerusalem.
Israeli airstrikes today hit a humanitarian zone in Gaza, where Israel has ordered Palestinians to go for their safety. Leaving 20-foot-deep craters, the blast tore through a tented camp. Civil defense officials say they recovered 19 bodies, but suspect others were swallowed by the sand. Israel says it targeted a Hamas control center and killed 3 top militants. As the Israeli military today released a video to explain why it's fighting in Gaza.
There was a hiding floor.
The military's chief spokesman entered the tunnel where he says Hamas murdered 6 hostages last week, including Israeli-American Hersh Goldberg Poland.
But they were here in this tunnel in horrific conditions, where there is no air to breathe, where you cannot stand.
But the fighting is not only in Gaza. Today, the Israeli military admitted it's highly likely its troops unintentionally shot and killed a Turkish-American woman, Ayşenur Ezgi Egi, last week during a protest in the West Bank.
Expressing their views.
Secretary Blinken had pointed criticism.
In our judgment, Israeli security forces need to make some fundamental changes in the way that they operate in the West Bank.
The Israeli military said today the hostages killed in the tunnel were likely kept there during their final days or even weeks. Lester?
Richard Engel, thank you. In 60 seconds, it wasn't just a clipping of the wings, the airport collision that knocked the whole tail off a jet full of passengers. How could it have happened? Next. Alarming moments today at the world's busiest airport. 2 Delta planes colliding on the taxiway, the tail of one of the aircraft knocked off. Priya Shwether reports from Atlanta.
A slow-speed collision at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport.
The whole tail of that CR takes off.
The flight crew of a Delta Airbus bound for Tokyo seemingly unaware they just hit a much smaller Delta regional jet bound for Louisiana.
We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was?
The accident just after 10 this morning knocked off the smaller jet's tail.
It felt like when you're on the interstate and you hit the rumble strips.
Nathan Pike, a producer for NBC's Kansas City affiliate KSHB, was on the smaller plane.
You could hear the metal scraping against the outside of the plane, and it was just shaking really badly.
In a statement to NBC News, Delta says the wingtip of the Tokyo-bound plane came into contact with the smaller aircraft, adding nobody was injured, and they've rebooked the 277 passengers on new flights. Jeff Gazzetti, an aviation analyst for NBC News, says an investigation will have to determine what happened.
Maybe they were programming their jet for takeoff. Maybe there was some distraction in the control tower with the ground controller. Maybe congestion had an issue.
The FAA and the NTSB are investigating this incident. Experts say these types of taxiway collisions are rare, and the slower speeds help prevent any injuries. Lester?
All right, Priya, thank you. Up next, with reproductive rights front and center on tonight's debate stage, the doctor leading one of just 5 clinics of its kind in the country tells us how his practice and the women he's treating have changed in recent years. Back now with the battle over abortion. Missouri's Supreme Court today ruling abortion rights will stay on the ballot in November after a legal battle to remove it. Since Roe was overturned, the nation has become a patchwork of abortion laws. And tonight we visit one state where women are traveling to obtain a rare and often misunderstood form of the procedure later in pregnancy. Here's Dasha Burns.
Behind these doors is one of only 5 clinics in the country where women can access the rarest and most controversial form of abortion.
The majority of women who come to see you, what is their circumstance?
It ranges from the 12-year-old kid who's pregnant from her stepfather to the 45-year-old woman who desperately wants to have a baby and finds out that she has a fatal illness that is incompatible with being pregnant.
Dr. Warren Hearn and his team in Boulder, Colorado specialize in 2nd and 3rd trimester abortion.
These are all layers of bulletproof glass?
Correct.
Those against the practice say it's simply too late in a pregnancy to terminate.
The Democrats are radical because the 9 months is just a ridiculous situation where you can do an abortion in the 9th month.
Dr. Hearn says his clinic doesn't perform abortions in the 8th or 9th month and that they're extraordinarily rare across the country. Just 1% of abortions are performed after 21 weeks. He tells us he doesn't want to do this work, but unforeseen circumstances create a need for it, and that strict abortion bans in red states are partly to blame for an increase in patients seeking him out because it's taking them longer to find care.
What is the emotional experience of the patients that come and see you?
Well, great distress and anguish.
How often are women coming to you when their life is at risk?
That's happened all the time.
Hearn says many of the women who come here are dealing with very wanted pregnancies that have gone very wrong, like the family that wrote him this letter.
There are no words or gifts that can say thank you enough for what you've done for our family.
We visited that family at their home in Texas, where abortion is banned except in limited cases to save a woman's life or health. In 2023, they received a tragic diagnosis 24 weeks into their pregnancy, a severe fetal anomaly, and possible consequences for Emma's future fertility.
We looked at each other and immediately just knew, as husband and wife, that that was the best decision for our family to have an abortion.
Unfortunately, the immediate recommendation was to go out of state.
A year later, the couple became parents again to Louie.
My heart and mind have been forever changed about this issue. In the worst way, of course, because we had to go through it to really understand the issue, and it feels that abortion is essential health care.
Since Roe was overturned, 14 states have near total abortion bans, and 4 more have bans after 6 weeks.
50% of my patients come from red states where they can get no help.
That means clinics like this one are overwhelmed, making getting an abortion harder for women in states without bans, too. Like Willow, who asked we only use her first name and not show her face for her safety. Willow is from Colorado, where there are no gestational limits on abortion, but she still struggled to find a clinic with available appointments that could perform the procedure.
2 clinics had told me no, turned me away. The 3rd clinic I called, they told me no again because of how far along I was, and that they had recommended that I go to this place.
She was 5 months pregnant by the time she met Dr. Hearn.
I was devastated and terrified.
As abortion remains a top political issue in 2024, Dr. Hearn vows to keep going.
Why do you do this work?
Because it matters. It matters for the health of the woman. It matters for their families. It matters for our society, and now it matters for freedom.
Dasha Burns, NBC News, Boulder, Colorado.
And we will take a break. Up next, the good news from out of this world. The space mission sending civilians to walk in space for the first time. Finally, there's good news tonight. At last, civilian astronauts are on their historic mission to travel farther in space than any human in more than 50 years. Tom Costello reports from Kennedy Space Center.
Blasting through the pre-dawn Florida sky on a SpaceX rocket, the crew of Polaris Dawn.
Godspeed, Polaris Dawn crew. May you make history and come home safely.
4 commercial astronauts determined to make history.
We can see the crew remain with their visors down in the locked position.
Late tonight, they will have traveled 870 miles from Earth, the furthest any human has ventured since the Apollo missions. In command, Jared Isaacman, the billionaire entrepreneur paying for his 2nd space trip. Pilot Scott Petit, mission specialist Sarah Gillis, and medical officer Anna Menon. Passing through the Van Allen belts of high radiation, the crew will record their own exposure levels for future SpaceX moon missions. Then on Thursday, wearing brand new spacesuits, the first commercial astronaut spacewalk, leaving the entire spaceship open to the vacuum of space.
Objectively, it would be the riskiest part of the mission. It's also the one that's received rightfully probably the majority of the last 2.5 years of attention.
And they'll be flying too high to rendezvous with the space station in case of trouble. The mission also part 2 of a massive fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Hospital.
We also believe it is important to address the challenges that we face here on Earth today. This is a continuation of what was started on Inspiration 4. They raised over $250 million for St. Jude, and we are continuing that.
This is a 5-day mission splashing down on day 6, probably off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean, weather permitting. Lester?
All right, Tom Costello, thanks for sharing that with us. That's Nightly News for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Hiyo ndo secret yangu to a moisturized and bright skin.
Try Nice and Lovely Lemon Lotion today.
Please welcome former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
2016 Hillary Clinton.